Hello friends and welcome to Unit 2, Lesson 1, which will be on pricing analysis. We just finished the Unit 1 in which we had 7 lessons. And if you remember in Unit 1, we talked about data, we talked about stats, we talked about interpretation of data, we talked about market analysis, we talked about customer analysis, and then we talked about the product analysis. So in this unit 2, what we are going to talk about, starting with pricing analysis, and in continuation of pricing analysis, we'll look at how to price, sales and distribution analysis, target setting, performance analysis, people analytics, and not customer analytics, this is different, people analytics, and then we'll take up a case study and hands-on. So today the lesson we are going to talk about is on pricing analysis, where the learning objectives will be. We need to understand the price, what is price elasticity, and then we'll look at an optimal mix of price and volume through an equation, and then we'll look at price as a promotion tool, and lastly we'll look at the value proposition and try to equate that with the price. So let's start. When we talk about price, we need to look at the marketing process as a whole. If you remember, we talked about objectives, then comes your strategy, in which we discussed related to customer and also related to product, which is STP, that is segregation, targeting, and positioning, and that is where you make your strategy. And now we are going to talk about the 4 P's of marketing, which comes under the marketing mix under tactics: product, price, place, and promotion. And in this particular lesson, we'll particularly talk about price. Now, when we talk about pricing, we will see in the slides that are going to come, your price has to be consistent with the firm's strategy. That is the STP, where you position yourself, how you target, how you have segregated your market. So the price that you are going to put should be consistent with that strategy. So please try to remember that throughout this unit. When we talk about price, we need to understand 3 things, and we need to know them very carefully: cost, price, and value. We need to understand cost, price, and value from customer's perspective, and not just the definition: what is cost, what is price, and what is value. So think about what comes to your mind in terms of when I talk about cost. Similarly for price and for value. So let us have an open discussion through one example, which is a ball example. Now, what do you think is the cost of this ball? It can be a tennis ball, it can be a baseball. Let's say it's a baseball or a cricket ball. What cost means here is the material, the labor, all these components in order to make this ball, manufacture this ball, and maybe to sell that, what all other things you need, the place, the channels that you are using. So I put that as the cost. Then comes, what is the price of this baseball? Let us say the cost of this baseball is $2, and the price of this baseball is $6. All of a sudden, something comes to your mind: oh, cost is 2 and the price is $6, 3 times more. Now try to understand the price. When I say price, what that means? Price is nothing but the amount of money a consumer must pay to take the ownership of this ball. Now, the first question which I would like to ask you, do you think the customer wants to go into the details of cost, or customer has anything to do with cost? Out of cost and price, customer is more focused on the price. Of course, cost is important, but from the customer's perspective, how much important is cost? That is what we need to understand. So my question is there any link between cost and price? So for example, the cost is $2, the price is $6. Can I keep the price at 4? Can I keep the price as 2? Can I keep the price as $10? Is there any link? But is there any relationship between cost and price from the customer's perspective? The answer is no. So there is no link between cost and price. Generally what we do a target margin pricing. We calculate the cost of our product plus we put the margin on that. Analytics, especially when we talk about marketing analytics, they are important always from the customer point of view, because you can do the detailed analysis and come out with some strategies, some tactics which are going to help and make the goal of customer and the company as one. And that is what we'll try to understand. So target margin pricing, generally our focus is what is the cost, how much margin I would like to put in, and that is how we decide the price. But that approach is going away, right, in most of the products and segments. Let us understand that. So here comes the third term, which is what is the value of this baseball? If I ask you this question, if my son and your son is playing a cricket game and my son has won the match, then this ball has great value, as when we won the World Cup. The Indian team took the wickets and the ball and the bat and they kept that as of esteemed value, of great value. And whosoever was coming and they are saying this ball, is the one which was used in the finals of Cricket World Cup. So that is the value. So if my son has won the match, the value of this ball to me is very high. Whereas the value of this ball to you, because your son has lost the match, is not that high. So that is what we are talking of, the value of this baseball. Now, is there a link between price and value from customer point of view, from consumer point of view? And the answer is yes. There is a big link between price and value. So if I make this graph here, wherein we have 4 quadrants, and this is between price and value. So when we talk about the low price and high value, so if my product falls into that where the price is low and the value is high, right, there will be a huge demand for that product. Sales will be very high for sure. But when it is low price and low value, they may or may not buy. So there will be a question mark here. They will be thinking. When it is high price and high value, which falls into the premium segment, so there will be takers, few takers, but since high price, good for them. But if the price is high and the value is low, no one is going to buy anything here, that's for sure. So this is what is cost, price and value and how they are linked. From the customer perspective, in marketing and analytics, we always focus on price and value. Now, when we talk about cost or value, so what is the strategy of the company? Whether we would like to be the cost leader or we would like to differentiate ourselves with value. So, as I said, you need to put your pricing consistent with the firm's strategy. Now, here we are going to talk about two strategies. So we discussed about cost, price, and value because these are the three important components you need to distinguish when deciding a strategy. Now, cost, if I want to focus for cost leadership, that means I want to keep my cost as the lowest so that no one can compete with me. On the other side, I want to add value and I want to differentiate myself or my company or my product with the value that is attached to the product. And customer will only look at that value and is ready to pay any price for that value. So let us take two examples. Now there is this chain in UK which is Poundland, where what they do is they focus on cost, their cost, and the competitors' prices. Same is the case with, if I talk about Walmart, the biggest retail giant in the world. They say every day they want to sell all their products cheaper from the previous price. That's their strategy. So what they do is they say if Tesco is selling a bounty pack, maybe any product, for say $1.5, we'll sell it for 1.2. So they work on low cost strategy. On the other hand, if we have been talking about Apple. Apple works on differentiation. So they create a differentiated product which their competitors cannot reach by adding that value, so which is needed by the customers. And based on that, they are able to charge extra. So they are not looking at volumes, they are looking at that extra value, and the margin is very, very high. Whereas Poundland is working on low cost strategy, so they are looking at volume. So that's how you decide about cost or value differentiation. Now, another term we need to understand is price sensitivity. My question to you is, do you think low price means high sales? If we reduce the price, do you think there will be a lot of sales? That is what we are going to discuss, what we call as price elasticity. How elastic is the demand if I change the pricing? We'll also look at demand and supply and how that is linked to the pricing. Just to give you generalized statements which are true, and then we'll go in depth with some examples. A very low price point does not mean high sales, and that is what is price sensitivity. Now the price sensitivity is high on commodities like bread and water because these are daily consumption items. You can't survive without that. So it is very elastic. That means if I lower the price, the sales will go up. So it is very price sensitive. When we talk about the products where the quality is of prime importance, the price sensitivity is lower because it is not that you are buying it every day. So you are very conscious of the quality. So the price sensitivity is not very high. Even if you increase the price, the sales may not dip because people are quality conscious. They would still like to buy it. They may defer the decision, but definitely they'll buy it. The third segment is the price sensitivity is almost null on luxury products. For example, the top model of BMW car, the segment which is going to buy such premium products, they're not worried about price because this is the social status. This is something which is about self-esteem. So we talked about inelastic demand. Similarly, there are products like petrol and diesel, which is again inelastic. It is price insensitive. Why? Because we need that. It's a day-to-day item. So if I increase the price, the quantity may not proportionally decrease. So that is inelastic demand. Whereas, as I said, day-to-day things, bread and water, so it is very elastic because again, if I change the price, I may reduce the quantity that I am buying. So try to understand the difference between elastic demand and inelastic demand, although the diesel and petrol, which are the essential commodities. Whereas here the quantity may increase or there are substitutes. And in the case of petrol and diesel, so far the substitutes are not there. And if they are there, they are very expensive. So supply and demand and price. The higher the demand, the higher the price. The higher the supply, the lower the price. This is another relationship you need to understand. So how you play with price elasticity and demand and supply in order to get the right price for your consumer. Let's take a few examples. If we talk about, we need to understand price elasticity. Price elasticity is the measure to understand the consumer behavior. So I want to know if I increase the price, how the consumer is going to behave, and that behavior is very important for me to understand in the long run. So you reduce the price, people come, and how many people come, that is where analytics play its role. So that is what we measure, and that is what we call as the price sensitivity index. Now, for example, Coca-Cola was $1 and it has raised the price to $2. People will think to buy Coca-Cola, so it is very elastic. Not many people will go and buy, or they will keep it for some time. That decision. Now, for example, Coca-Cola reduces the price from $2 to 10 cents. A lot of people will come and buy. So all of a sudden the sales will go up tremendously. Right? So we call this as price elasticity of Coca-Cola demand. And that is how we measure it. So this is the measure of consumer behavior. Now if I talk about Pepsi, when the price of Coke was $2, Pepsi reduced its price to $1. All the people who are going for Coca-Cola, they now shifted to Pepsi. So price elasticity is very high, sensitivity is very high. So when we are talking about price elasticity of Coca-Cola with respect to itself, we just refer to that as price elasticity. When we are comparing the price elasticity of Coca-Cola demand with respect to the price of Pepsi, we call that as cross price elasticity. We need to come up with an optimal level of price and volume so that our revenues are maximized. So when we talk about supply and demand, we discussed that the cheaper the product, the higher the demand, and vice versa, as we saw in the case of Pepsi. So the price elasticity is measured in percentage change in units sold divided by percentage change in price. And if we try to incrementally change the price and see the consumer behavior, that is what we get as the price elasticity index. So it is for a period. So the period could be t, and t minus 1 is before you have reduced the price. So you put this formula, you get the percentage, and that is what comes your price elasticity. The more elasticity is there, the more you can play with the price in order to understand the consumer behavior. Now then comes your price volume equation, as I talked about that. So revenue is equal to price into units sold. And it is not just the price, we also look at the volume. And we would like to have an optimal mix of price and volume so that our revenues are maximized. So one of the things which comes out of this equation is the purchase quantity. Let us understand that. For example, you want to buy a premium car. If the price goes up and you wanted to buy the car, but since the price has gone up tremendously, you have dropped the idea. So purchase quantity has moved from 1 to 0. Whereas you are going to buy some pears and you wanted to buy maybe 20 pears or maybe 20 kg, but now because of the price you may go for 10. So that is what we mean by the purchase quantity. And when we are looking at the price volume equation, so this is how we figure out. So there are different strategies which we'll be looking at as to how to price a product and how to get this optimal mix. One of the things we do in price volume equation is variance analysis. Now, when your total revenue has increased and you have increased the price and there is a purchase quantity related to the price, you are not sure whether this increase in revenue is because of the price variance or because of the volume variance, and how much component is because of the price and how much component of the revenue is because of the volume. And then under price variance, it is price deviation in the currency, right? Which is one currency in which you are dealing if you are in the domestic market, but it could be because of the variance, because if you are a multinational company, that means you are operating in many countries and there is a change in the foreign exchange because it is varying from time to time. Is the price variance because of that? Similarly for volume variance, is it the mix variance? You have many products and you are giving a package, right? So is it the mix of the products which is giving rise to that volume variance and then the revenue variance, or is it the quantity variance? It is just the quantity of that product, right? So you do that, those analytics here. Now this is a chart wherein I have increased the price from say A to B, I have decreased it, and the volume has also gone down. So how much variance is there, or from P to A? How much variance is there due to the price change, and how much variance is there due to volume change? So you try to calculate. The conjugate variance is generally put in the price variance. So we do that analysis so that we exactly know that is it because of the price variance or the volume variance. And when we talk about price promotion, we are talking here is we are using price as a promotion tool. That means if the elasticity, the price elasticity, the price sensitivity is high, we can use the price as a promotion tool. And how we do it? Firstly, as we know, the law of demand, lower price, higher demand, because it is there is elasticity of price. So based on that, we do this. We talked about penetration pricing. Within the same market, with the same product, I want to penetrate the market, increase my market share. So I reduce the price as one of the things we discussed. So that is what we call as penetration pricing. Another could be volume discounting. So that is, in a way, the price is affected because if you go for more volume, as in case of peers we were talking, so then we reduce the price because that matters in the revenue equation which we were discussing. So the Weber's law says that it should be noticeable difference. So when you are playing with the price, so noticeable maybe 20 to 25% off, because that becomes very noticeable to the consumer. When you're framing your price promotion, right? So you should always use percentage discounts when the dollar amount is small. For example, the price of the product is say $1, and you say there is a percentage discount of 25 cents, 25 paisa, and it is a candy bar of 1 rupee. I will not be paying any attention to it. But if I say 25% is off, yes, I'll definitely look at that. Although the value is only 25 paisa or 25 cents. You must use dollar discount when dollar amount is huge. For example, you're selling a branded big premium car. So, and you say save $500, which may be just 5%, but $500 is a huge dollar amount. So that is how you frame the price as a promotion for your discounts. Now if we take of Geo when it entered, it penetrated the market like anything. And the pricing, it almost gave everything for free. That was happening in the case of the Sims when it entered. And today it is happening with the broadband connection. So they are again trying to do the same thing. Now last thing I would like to talk about is the price value equation. So when we talk about the price value equation, we talked about cost, price and value. So the customer is not bothered about cost. Customer is bothered about the value that you are giving to him or her. And so when we try to arrive at a price based on the value, we try to look at this equation, which is the customer value. That is the price seen through the eyes of the customer. And that is what we call as the customer value. So the equation is perceived benefits minus perceived cost. So you need to quantify that, those perceived benefits and perceived cost. You had been quantifying the cost. So if the perceived benefits are not more than the perceived cost, then there is no value the customer is seeing in that. And then the pricing that you are going to put will not be sustainable in the long run. And in the future, you cannot play with that price. Now, when we talk about the perceived cost, so it is in terms of monetary, time, and psychic. So monetary, the purchase price, operating cost, the service cost, the switching cost, and the opportunity cost. So you have been working on these to quantify them. Time, finding information about product or service. Travel to acquire product or service. Learning curve. So the 4 P's play a big role here, which you need to look at while looking at perceived benefits. Psychic, effort required to find product or service. Effort required to use product or service. Concern about risk of product or service. So sometimes you buy a product, and in order to operate that product or use that product, the things are very, very complex. So that perceived cost now is very, very heavy for you to look at. So when we talk about the perceived benefits, these can be functional, social, emotional, epistemic, that is the self-esteem that is brought through that product to you, right? The novelty, lot of things connected to that, and conditional. So all these you need to look at these perceived benefits. So once they are very heavy, the more the perceived benefits, the more you can play with the price. And that is what the customer value is. So I summarize the things for you. So first is understanding price. Second is we talked about price elasticity, how we can use that as a measure of consumer behavior. Then looked at supply and demand, effect on price, and then the customer value, which is very, very important. Small quiz for you, friends. Have your notebooks ready? The first question is, higher the demand, fill in the blank, the price. Higher the demand, rather higher the price or lesser the price. Higher the supply, higher the price or lesser the price. Use percentage discount when dollar amount is big or small. I think you might have written your answers. Please check the answers here. Higher the demand, higher the price. Higher the supply, lower the price. So use percentage discount when dollar amount is small. We talked about 25 cents or 25 paisa. That's all, my friends. If you have any questions, feel free to write to me, and I'll be back with the response within 48 hours. And I encourage you to go to this YouTube video, which is about pricing analytics using Excel for Malaysian Airlines. How they put the pricing, how they do the pricing for the airlines. So it's a very good YouTube video and hands-on on Excel for you. Thank you very much. See you soon for lesson 2. Bye for now.